to see.
Yep, I am able to see.
Great. So yeah, the topic is configuring the DNS stuff for the SVMs that are created as part of DHSS true mode. So how it actually started is with a bug from one of our customers, and during the Barbican share encryption, creation. So usually when we create a share on the DHSS true mode today, we are going to create a new share server on the network. That's all good. But when we are trying to enable the Barbican key store on the share server from ONTAP, we do not have a communication from the Barbican endpoint to resolve that endpoint with Rosa or other deployments at the moment. So, and which is ending up with error saying could not resolve hostname. So it's all because of the SVM that is created as part of this workflow does not have a DNS name service resolution configured. So we have that's a high level problem statement. Okay, and we have come up with a couple of approaches that I will be going through today in this. And I just kept a note saying that the existing DNS configuration we have through the SIF workflows through security services, right? That is not really, related to this. This is something that has to do with the infrastructure connectivity. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I will start with approach one, like how we would like to, proceed on this. So approach one is that we would like to have a high level configuration options which are NetApp DNS domains, in the manila.conf, NetApp DNS domains, and NetApp DNS name servers, NetApp DNS hosts. When a user keeps this as part of the manila.conf, we would like to have the DNS provision for all the SVMs on the particular backend stanza. So all the SVMs that are created for that stanza will have the same DNS configuration options. And for any urgent changes, say that we would like to update the existing configuration. We have come up with a couple of things. One, a user can manually update on the ONTAP directly. It's a very straightforward and two commands. That's one thing. Or with this approach, we can also have a config change option saying that he can update these three configuration options in the manila.conf. And once a user restarts, it should have the updated, DNS for all the SVMs as part of the backend stanza. So this is how it looks like. First, when user updates, it should read the DNS config values from the manila.conf, and it should retrieve all the shared servers managed by this backend. And for each shared server, we should extract the vServer name and see how is the DNS. If it is matching, we will not update. If it is not matching, we will update. So this is, I kept more info, maybe people can go through, but this is a high level approach for the approach one, having the configuration options as part of the manila.conf. Any queries here? I mean, this is very, direct approach that we thought. I think we discussed, I mean, Carlos, Gautam are aware, we discussed in one of our meetings, but we thought it's good to present here.
Yep. Gautam?
Yes. So I think we should talk through what's going on, right? I mean, basically, the reason why this should be done, I think, is probably the thing which I had to wrap my head around. It's because of an on-tap limitation, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. That there is today a way that ONTAP treats Keystone differently from Barbican. So because for this entire feature to work, a storage backend has to reach out to Keystone, it has to reach out to Barbican, but somehow the Keystone interactions are working fine, but Barbican is not. And that seems to be because of the way ONTAP divides how this work is done between the cluster and the vServer, right? Am I getting that right?
Right. Yeah, that's the way it is designed. I mean, Keystone is reaching out through the C server, and Barbican, it's reaching out through the SVM.
And by C server, you mean it is this a shared thing for all of the V servers inside the ONTAP cluster?
Yes, that could be. I mean, but really, we are not configuring anything. It's handled by the ONTAP internally.
Yes, Gautam. It is kind of a whole cluster.
Cluster
It's
level.
called admin vServer also.
I see. Yeah. So my first thought would be like, if this is a consistent issue, I mean, it's a consistency issue. It could be fixed on the on-tap side, because of the fact that I mean, it seems like the vServer data that we would provide. Do you think it's going to be the same and useful? Should a storage system or a driver need information for both Keystone and Barbican, or are we building around just the Barbican use case? That's my concern around this, because we seem to be working around a limitation around this.
No,
Yeah.
I
So,
mean,
um,
go ahead. Anand.
yeah, one thing, Gautam, we wanted to also maybe take this as a feature enhancement on how you configure your DHSS true uh, SVMs on ONTAP, right? So, for instance, right, today it is Barbican, yes. Tomorrow there can be another requirement for which we would also want the SVMs that we are creating to have configured DNS servers, and this itself is a feature in ONTAP, and it is exposed via separate APIs of its own. The unfortunate part is that we don't have a single way of doing it at cluster level, which can be shared across all the SVMs. That is something that I'm not sure why the platform doesn't support yet. But if that would have been the case, it would have actually made lives a little bit easier, because we don't have to then manage it at SVM level, and we could have just created it at cluster level and gotten it done once for each storage bucket, for instance. But since that is not available today, and we are looking to provide this solution, we can maybe raise that kind of a request where we can create a shareable DNS config at cluster level, for instance, right? Something that can be done once, or something that can be done by the cluster admin himself, and can be percolated at SVM level. That can be a requirement, but a requirement on ONTAP, is going to take some time. We may have customers who may be looking for solutions on Rosso before we go and deliver it via the platform, because that will take some time. So that was the primary reason why we wanted to come up with these approaches.
Yeah, that makes sense. I have a follow up, but I think Maurice has his hand up. So, point.
Yeah, I have a clue, but so maybe you can continue with yours, and I keep my question.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Maurice. So no, the follow up was I think what you said was super interesting, which is that if a tenant share server needs some DNS data, how does it get it today? Today, the only mechanism that we built around DNS support was in the security services. And so, because tenants bring that security service into OpenStack, into their ONTAP, they ought to have a way to tell ONTAP how to reach that security service itself. So we have this DNS. There are, I think, at least one DNS configuration that's possible from the API for that purpose. But we don't really think through, is there anything else that the share server will need to work with the rest of the tenants' workloads? Is there something else in the tenants thing? Like maybe are they running a DNS service themselves, and do they need their storage to reach out into that for some reason? And we have not really had that use case, I suppose. So what I think that I'm just building on what you're saying, Anup, that seems like a plausible use case. I don't know if it's the way things work in reality.
Yep, that is right. So there can be other reasons for which you would want a DNS server to be configured on SVM, where today it is primarily used for features, but then again I think this, the reason why, we wanted to bring it as a feature at DHSS 2 level was to treat it as a separate feature, irrespective of Barbican. Barbican is going to be the first consumer of this service of the DNS configuration. That is how we were seeing it. And if there are ways to do this in a better way, we can look at, how to approach this problem. The other problem or the other approach of going to the platform may have a longer turnaround time, and we definitely want to follow that up with the platform team as of now. For giving this solution and wrapping it also in a generic way to give it as a feature to the customer, so that it doesn't look like a patchwork just for Barbican, is where we were coming from. I think there is another approach that maybe Sai can talk about, and we can then make a call on what works for us. Go ahead, Sai. I think one more question is there, right? You can take that question and then. Go ahead, Maurice.
Yes, okay. I'm confused about the ways you offer how to configure DNS. So I think there were two ways, and they are not depending on each other. So either you have a DNS domain and a name server, or you have a static DNS host config. So I think you can decide between the two, but not one is dependent on the other.
Yeah, that is correct. So the assumption here is that we would add a DNS name server to OneTap vServer, and there are two things that can happen after that. Is one, that the DNS name entries are already present in the DNS server, so we just leave it there. We don't need to add the DNS host entries. But if in case they are not configured, and someone would want to configure that via Manila, that is where the the third point, which is DNS host, comes into picture, which can also be configured via manila.conf, and we will take care of also adding those entries so that the Barbican or any other FQDN name is actually visible to OneTap. Does that maybe make sense?
Yes. So yeah, but you don't need the other two options to be set to be able to configure the hosts. You can use it as a fallback, but if you know you don't have it anyway in your name server and no resolution, you would only want static, you could do this.
Right. Yep. That is where I think it becomes optional if your name server is already configured with the FQDN and IPs and host names, right? It is not required after the vServer is created with the name server.
Yeah. Thanks.
Girish, I think is has a raise hand.
Yeah, no, just want to add that point. I don't know how to make me to participate in this discussion. So yeah, just want to add this point. So why we need the two entry here? So first approach will be, we will use the DNS which is configured in the OnTap. In case it is not configured, there will be fallback mechanism actually. So fallback means if it is not configured, it will fall back on the host space resolution. So that's why we thought, okay, we'll make sure that even DNS is not able to resolve. There is other way to resolving this FQDN name to IP address. So that is the purpose to adding the two entry here.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Can I go ahead? I mean, in the interest of time, let's have the questions taken at the end, and maybe we can have it entered in the Etherpad so that I can go ahead with the approach too. Is that fine, Carlos?
Yeah, please go ahead, Sai.
Thank you. So the approach two is that we would like to take this DNS configuration options through the share network subnet metadata, which is well existed in our Manila architecture. So how it starts is like we would like to have three metadata keys like mentioned above. It's rather than config options, we would like to have it as a metadata keys, same stuff, and all of them we are making mandatory. But like Maurice told, we can try out first two, and if it is not reaching, we can try out adding this. I mean, that we also thought of that, so we will do that. And there is a configuration that needed when you are dealing with a driver stuff for a share subnet, share network subnet metadata. So administrator must have this entered, this kind of stuff entered in the default section of the Manila.configuration, if I'm not wrong. You should have this added before do operations on the subnet metadata for the driver work. So this is something that has to be set before the workflows. So how it goes, how the workflow goes is so we create a share network. I think there will be a default subnet created, and then we will have to set a DNS metadata on the subnet. I believe only one property at a time is allowed. So like this, we will have to set and create. It's an encrypted share. I call it encrypted share because we were facing the issue there. But you create a share, and you with the subnet metadata, you will have to carry through the SVM and configure the DNS details for the SVM. That's the first workflow that we want to do. And second thing is updating the same DNS for the subnet. So if someone wants to update the DNS of the subnet, we can do the share network subnet set, maybe configure options like this in the metadata. And same goes like this. When you update, I believe I checked and there is a update mechanism happening. Manila sends an RPC cache to the share server host, and we can do update via driver.update share network subnet from metadata. So this is what path A is about creation and path B is about updation. And this is at subnet level. So I mean network level. So whatever vServers created as part of the network will have the DNS configured for the subnet. And there is also pre-subnet granularity available when it's dealing with availability zones. Since subnets are scoped to availability zones, if a different availability zone is tied to the different subnet, we can still have different DNS configurations. Maybe this can be used at the replication level when there are different subnet availability zones. So we can tie DNS to the different subnets and use it. So advantages we highlighted is that the path already exists. I mean, we have a whole set of stuff exists, and we can reuse the existing one. Like I told, pre-granularity, this thing we have. I mean, different subnets naturally get different DNS configurations with respect to availability zones. Today, with respect to I think NetApp, we already have path A for these two params, set VLAN and set MTU, and updation for show mount and PNFS things. And this is we believe that this is fast to implement, and as we have all the infrastructure exists, right? Only driver level stuff need to be done. And we are hoping that there will not be any Manila core changes. Looked at the code and saw only driver level changes are needed. This will be supported for both Zapier and REST clients. So I mean, the planned implementation is for both Zapier and REST clients. These are the high level advantages. And the drawbacks or limitations we saw is that there is no API level validation. I mean, typos are, this has to be, see, here itself is a typo, right? So yeah, this has to be dealt in a driver because we are sticking to particular keys, right? So we will deal it at driver level. So at the API level, this will go through. And this is something that I have a doubt. So fire and forget stuff in the RPC, when update mechanism, it just gives 200 regardless whether it's a success or failure, right? So that we will have to discuss. I need to dig through and understand. So there is no cleanup metadata deletion today. So deleting a DNS metadata key does not remove DNS from the SVM. So this is something that is a drawback. This is what we highlighted. And no cross key atomicity. So if it is set in separate API calls, driver receives partial updates. Say we have 3 set DNS domains, DNS name servers, and DNS hosts. But when you are updating, we cannot update all 3. It goes one by one, right? So it will be partially set. So one by one call, I mean, say we want to update all 3, but you will still have to fire one by one. That is a drawback. And policy scope, yeah, metadata update policy is admin or project member. I mean, any project member can really go and update. It's not like a share metadata where it's only admin only metadata. So this is a high level thing from the approach to. Basically, we would like to deal it with share network subnet metadata. So yeah, any queries on this? I see Carlos have already noted down some, and we answered to our extent whatever is possible. And also thanks for putting up your comments, Kiran.
Yeah, so I have 2 questions mostly. First of them is you mentioned there's an implementation for the updates as one of the drawbacks there, like the no cleanup on metadata deletion. But I think that thing can be a part of this, right? Can be a part of the NetApp driver update. If something, unless the NetApp driver cannot deal with the deletion of the DNS servers on the V server. But yeah, if this is deleted, I think nothing prevents us from also doing it. But also, like it can mean that we would be breaking workflows if deleted, right? So for example, if share creation with encryption depends on this and we simply allow people to drop it, then yeah, we would be breaking something or some workflows. And but yeah, that's something that implementation would need to figure out if we go with this approach. And the second thing is metadata update is supposed to be admin or project member, right? Like updating the metadata, unless it is the one. I was looking at the policies at the code, and it should be both admin or project member. So I think that limitation on policy scope might not exist because it's project members could actually manipulate the metadata, unless the metadata is set as part of the admin only updatable metadata, and this is not something that we discussed as part of this approach, if I understood things correctly, right? You can correct me if I'm wrong, of course.
So this could be an advantage then, right? So.
Yeah, I'm assuming that this limitation does not exist in this case. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right, got it, noted. Yeah, thanks. Any other things from?
I think all of questions I had were addressed. Got them?
Hey, I did see somebody else's hand. I think it was Anup.
Oh.
Yeah, I was just responding to, I was just wanted to maybe respond to Carlos about. So, Carlos, I think what you're saying is that deletion of the DNS is not something that we should ideally support. We should support the modification and creation, and creating a server with DNS, right?
Yeah, I think that would be a delicate situation. Like if you're replacing something, then it makes sense. But if you are just dropping the DNS server, and there are shares that will need that workflow, like there's something that will need that workflow and need the DNS to be there in the SVM, then it means we are pretty much making something that works not work anymore. That's what I was meaning with the comment I made.
Right.
So that is something that I think we can restrict.
Yeah, I mean,
but which of these two approaches?
Create and set workflows, right?
Yeah.
Unset. Yeah, unset we don't want to also.
So I think the approach one, we wanted to have another alternative approach to approach one is because of this reason that it creates an immutable DNS, but then if the customer really needs to change it, they can still go and do it on ONTAP. So this second approach, kind of had less flaws compared to the approach number one.
Right. You see the same from Here an approach to looks better due to right,
Any recommendations, maybe Gautam and Carlos? I mean, we can take a look at how likely it is going to get fixed on ONTAP, or if we go and talk to them now, what is the timeline look like, etc., etc. But I'm sure that it will not be very fast if we go back to the ONTAP route.
Yeah, I mean, peeling back and just thinking through this problem a little bit more, right? So, the case you make about having tenants dictate this is something that I was not thinking about, right? And it is based on you're seeing a bigger picture around what might be required for tenant share servers, in the future as well, beyond this infrastructure limitation that we are trying to resolve today. And so I really want to think through that part, because that's something that I don't think ONTAP's resolution of this will resolve, right? Because I mean, if you have a use case for tenants to supply this information, ONTAP cannot just fix that. I mean, we would still have to somehow plumb that information from Manila.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking through about this. On the ONTAP limitation side, I mean, certainly up to you to see, how this can be resolved without any changes at all. That would be the best case scenario. But if you were to make a change, I mean, initially my preference was something around the option one, because it is configuration, and an administrator has to take that pain, although they're going to be annoyed with it, saying it's infrastructure information that should be configurable in a different way. But let's say this is how things work, right, in a storage backend, and so that's how you're supposed to do it. So we live with that. But approach 2 starts becoming a little bit more interesting because of that extensibility into what more is possible, and what do end users really need. And the problem with approach 2, though, is that if you use that to solve this infrastructure problem, you're now pushing it one more layer by asking your end users to give that information to you. This is information you already have, by the way, as an operator, or even as the infrastructure software itself. And to push that problem onto the end users seems like that's the part that I'm not able to justify.
Right. I think I understand what you're saying. Basically, it comes as a single solution from most of as well as from ONTAP's point of view. So right now, with approach 2, they will have to provide this for each share they want to configure.
Correct. So I mean, think through as an operator, what would you do, right? So you would have to tell your end users to add this information to their share networks even before they create their first share, and do this every time they're using a different share network or a different share network subnet. And will this information change? If this information changes, where do the end users get that new information? And what if you forget to do it? So I was saying, what if you have typos and an incorrect IP? You don't have control over that. You just put that in your metadata, and then you gave it all the way to the storage backend and misconfigured something.
Okay. Yeah. In that case, I would. This approach 1 make more sense because it is like a.
Yeah, exactly. So to solve the infrastructure problem, I don't think approach 2 helps. In my view, that's why I'm against that. But I like approach 2 for the extensibility for other use cases, and I want to understand those other use cases. Like maybe they don't exist in OpenStack because I mean the NetApp drivers existed for over a decade now, and if people have not come asking for this, maybe that there's no use case for this in OpenStack. But I would like to know if there are other places where people are actually adding this information to the storage backend because they're trying to resolve something else, and maybe that's a missing there's a gap in the OpenStack implementation. Does that make sense? I'm not trying to I'm trying to actually talk through the entire thing in my head.
Right.
Uh,
The
No, it
major
does make
drawback in approach one can be uh, all the shared servers that are created as part of the backend, right, will have uh, the same DNS. I mean, in the approach two, it is at the subnet level, right? So, say the backend will have
So
multiple reservers.
how about we do this only for Barbican? That was, I think, the original discussion that we had. As I,
Yeah, that is initial level discussion. Yeah.
right. So if we just do it for Barbican, get the details from the existing infrastructure. Don't ask customer to configure anything, and internally take care of what we do the DNS server Barbican is configured.
That's definitely. I mean, yeah, that's something we need feedback from Carlos and Gautam. That can be doable. I mean, if you want to do it at only Barbican level, it is fine.
But we do still, we do not have the DNS name server IP, right? That is something that we cannot get from the driver or at the driver level or even at the core level.
Right. I mean, if you want to solve at the Barbican level, right? Only Barbican level without even configure options. In the Manila.conf customer or user, I mean, user is passing the endpoint. From there, we can fetch the host name. But I don't know how much time it will work. I mean, even IP we need, right? Pinging that thing and getting the IP will be difficult. That's the approach we thought first. I mean, without even with the configure options. But if we still want the exact options, right, we will need those two entries, host name and IP address. At least we know we need those two entries to solve it Barbican level.
Right.
I mean, this is something we can try out locally. I mean, whether without configuration options it can work, or passing two are mandatory. But yeah, it will, like Maurice mentioned a point, right? At that point, if you would like to solve at Barbican level, it can be solved with host entries.
Okay. I'm inclining towards maybe approach one. Maybe Girish, you have some point to make.
Yeah. So means is it possible actually we will take both the approach one and approach two, and it will leave on the customer actually based on his configuration. Approach one looks good for me. Only the issue there is if we have the multiple V server under that backend, actually it will apply for all. And approach two is kind of you can have a specific V server you can apply. So if you're implementing both, actually means.
But
How about
we
that?
also have to, one thing that I think we should also understand is that we are talking about DHSS 2 here, where most of the time it will either create or we use the existing servers that we have configured, right? So what I'm just thinking is how likely is it that I will need a different DNS for DHSS is equal to true for each of the SVMs that I create under a single storage backend. It might not be very likely, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. And we also have the fact that all of the SVMs would be within the same availability zone if they pertain to the same storage that's configured, right? Because if you have backend A, which has all of this configuration set for it, it means that all of the and backend A is in its storage availabilities on A. It means that all of the servers will land, or the SVMs will land in the same availability zone. So I don't think the granularity per availability zone would matter much. So yeah, I agree that with that point. So yeah, I'm also leaning towards approach one.
Makes sense.
So there is means two scenario actually where there one backend can have the multiple SVM. when that quota is over, and other is somebody is changing that shared network. So is it possible that with the same backend we can have the two different shared network?
Yes,
Normal
it
customer
is.
scenario that
Yes, it is.
On the same backend as in same storage driver, same storage backend entry, you mean, or something else?
backend stranger. I mean, one backend stranger we can have the different means um, share network customer can create.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because a backend stanza, for instance, even just in the NetApp use case,
Mhm.
is pointing to an on-tap cluster, right? So that's
Right.
shared across a lot of different tenants, and so each tenant can have their own share network, multiple share
Share
networks
network.
on the
Yeah.
same cluster.
So yeah, in that case, I think one backend stranger we can have multiple V servers. So it will applying on the V server. That is a drawback here actually in the first approach.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why
Yeah,
I mean, so the first approach makes sense for infrastructure information like this, but the second approach is what you're probably seeking for, tenant-driven workloads, tenants bringing in
yes,
workloads and
Right.
they need their DNS services. That's not related to the OpenStack infrastructure, and that's why I think the second one is a good place to put it for that. But to give them the infrastructure information and ask them to plumb it in seems like a bad approach in my view. So I kind of I do like where you're going, Girish. I think a combination of both these approaches actually makes things better. But I think for the infrastructure problem, the second approach does not help is what I'm thinking.
Yep.
Okay.
And then you have to layer what Maurice said about how do you resolve, like, I don't know how things are. I mean, what is conflict resolution here? Like, you've configured three things. You've configured it in 6 ways now because you have two different approaches. What wins? And
Right.
All
I
right.
think that is also a big factor.
Agreed.
Okay.
so I think we can go back to the drawing board for this. But it was a good discussion. I mean, and thanks for bringing the new use cases in.
yeah.
Yep.
So do we have any votes for the approaches, or do we need to, because approach one seems good, but infrastructure issue, and this second one, it's a tenant driven. So we will come back, Anup. How is it then?
Yeah, I think okay. Let's take a poll. Maybe I don't know. I do like the way we are making it more admin centric as part of approach one, because this is more of an infrastructure, as Gautam also highlighted, right? In my opinion, I think approach one ticks most of the boxes except the immutability of
Right.
not being able to manage the share server DNS details, right? And the likelihood of that changing, I don't think anyone is aware of how that kind of information changes actually. So, in my opinion, again, this we do it via approach one. But let's take maybe 2-3 days for feedback and circle back. If we have consensus, we take approach one
Yeah.
to conclude.
Anup, we are not able to hear you. I mean,
Yeah, your voice is
Okay.
still.
Okay.
not
So
on, but
things
yeah,
around.
we got your point. 2-3 days feedback we'll
Okay.
take. And
Am I audible now?
Yep.
yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Sorry, I think my laptop speaker was on. Yeah. So I was think let's take a couple of days, and wait for some feedbacks on this. If not, I
Sure.
think I feel that approach one is taking the lead right now.
Sure. Yeah. Yes. Sorry for eating up some time, and yeah,
Yeah, no problem.
we'll take this further, in the Etherpad. Carlos, thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Sai, for bringing this up.
Yes.
Great
I
discussion.
did hide that, Carlos. Where is the unshare button?
Oh,
You're
yeah,
still
there's
seeing my screen?
the same button that you start a screen sharing. So there's if
Yeah,
you
got
go
it.
go back, yeah, awesome. Thanks, Sai. Thanks, Anup. Thanks, Gautam, everyone. Grish.
Thanks.
Any further considerations on this topic, or should we jump to the next one? All right. Taking silence as no. Thanks, Sai. We'll share more feedback in the Etherpad, and yeah, I think we should update the Etherpad with the information we collected here, and yeah, add any missing details as requested in the feedback. All right, so I think that takes us to the next topic. We're a little bit behind in the schedule, but yeah, I think we can still make it work. So I think it's all good. Right. Next topic is NetApp AFX integration. So yeah, Sanket, floor is yours.
Yeah, hello, everyone. This is Sanket from NetApp team. Let me share my screen.
Yep.
Yeah, is it visible now? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so as part of Hibiscus release, we are planning to bring in support for NetApp AFX. So this is a new platform that has been um, released by ONTAP, and this follows a disaggregated storage architecture, and which is mainly focused on AI/ML use cases. So this particularly targets NAS and S3 workloads. The key difference here compared to the regular unified architecture that ONTAP follows is that here we do not have a per controller aggregate. Rather, we have a storage availability zone where the entire storage pool of the cluster is visible to all the nodes in the cluster. So there is no aggregate mapping required here. And also, we have not gone away with the showing the aggregate. So we will be showing a single aggregate, which will be named as storage availability zone 0. And also, other things to see here is that this has only REST support and no ZAPI support, and only thin provisioned, and encryption is not available here. And the default style is flex group. So these are all internal configuration changes. So just to give a visibility on the architecture of how it looks like. So here we can see that there is switch, a cluster switch in between here. So this is completely different to how unified ONTAP is connected, where the storage shelves are directly connected to the nodes here. So here, this ensures that these shelves have a complete visibility to all the nodes. So this is the change that we have in AFX. So there have been quite a few customer requests asking for AFX support. And since this will be NAS only, we will be bringing this to Manila. On a side note, we have a disaggregated platform for SAN as well, which is called ASAR2, which we have already started supporting in Sender. For Hibiscus scope, we will be bringing in a limited set of capabilities. The first one being we will only support DHSS falls with CRUD operations for share, only for share. And we will not be bringing in the other workflows during the first release to see, like we want to give that, first MVP to customers to start using AFX with Manila. So we will be supporting NFS and SIPs for FlexWalls and Flex Group for the share, create, delete, extend, shrink operations. And here the key difference, as I said, is that it's a single aggregate. So previously, the current behavior of Manila with the NetApp is that we have aggregates as the pool. So here we are planning to bring in storage availability zone as the pool. Also, there are the way the Manila can detect that this is an AFX platform is through these parameters that we get it from the cluster API, which is the disaggregated true and SAN optimized false. Yeah, so another key changes that we will need to bring into NetApp driver is the REST only enforcement that we need to do for AFX. And we will need to implement the the unimplemented REST APIs that will be required for enabling this platform. So what will be out of scope of Hibiscus will be DHSS true, snapshot workflows, share replication, share migration. Here, share migration will not be applicable since this is a disaggregated platform and um, there is no point of moving the volume around in the cluster. So, and share, manage, and unmanage. So these will not be supporting in the first release. From the design point of view, one thing is we are planning to bring is we will have a flag called NetApp disaggregated platform. So this will help customers to select this platform via the extra spec, where if there is a in the vanilla, if there is a unified and a disaggregated platform, and they want to specifically use AFX, they can use this capability. And yeah, this is the SAZ as an aggregate. So we will be henceforth broadcasting or showing up the SAZ as the pool rather than an aggregate, since the SAZ name and the aggregate name is the same in AFX. And also we'll be trying to close the gap of REST that we will need. There are some gaps that we have identified, which wherein we are falling through to Zappy, so we will need to bring in those REST features as well. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it from my side. Any questions on top of mind? Any?
Hey, I think thanks, Sanket. Sorry, I'm unmuting just because. Sorry, I should have raised my hand.
Yep.
Broke my own rule there. So I think the part about migration today isn't that supported across ONTAP clusters as well with the
This part, right?
ONTAP driver? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Sai, would you like to take this question? I think it'll be better to answer this. Or Anu?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so share migration is supported across clusters via so I don't think share migration is supported. It is more of create volume from snapshot workflow that you may be talking about, maybe Gautam. There is a create volume from snapshot where you can actually choose a destination volume which can actually create a volume with using that snapshot or share using that snapshot outside of the cluster, which is a different side. So what we do is we create a mirror relationship, transfer the data, and then we delete the mirror relationship.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, as long as you've looked through the minimum required features for drivers,
Yeah.
this might actually be this thing. So I guess the big question is, this isn't a new driver. This is going to change the way the driver operates, right?
Agreed.
Yes,
So
that's correct.
the way we have actually designed a similar kind of disaggregated platform persona in Cinder Driver was we've taken deviations where required and where the limitations kind of limit us. We have actually kind of extended the existing functionality where possible, and we have just overridden the functionality where required, right? So that would be the strategy here as well. The reason why disaggregated platform on storage is actually becoming a little bit more is gaining the traction is because of the AI workload, right? So what we want to solve here and with this coverage is the AI workload solutions. Disaggregated kind of makes it creates higher throughput, higher high performance workloads, which is the first requirement of AI. And this actually kind of paves our way to support the AI workload via Manila for our customers. So that is the kind of use case we are trying to solve here. And yeah, I think there is one. Did we share the architecture diagram, Sanket, of AFX?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Which
this one.
was that is right where yeah. So basically, if you see here, the the controllers actually can be scaled by scaling controllers as and when they are required, and similarly the storage availability zones serve the purpose of single pool of storage. So the storage can actually be scaled by its own scaling. It does not depend on node anymore, which was basically the unified architecture where we had one-to-one mapping between aggregates and nodes, which is going away now.
Yeah, I guess I mean just I mean an extension of my clarification question before I hand it off to Maurice. I think the thing was I was asking why is this design of layering it on top of the existing driver? Have you thought this through as if it's a brand new driver, what disadvantages do you have versus what layering it on top of the existing driver as a new mode?
Yeah.
Um,
So so the reason I think we want to take it as part of the same driver is because it is not a different platform. It is a similar platform, but a persona change. From ONTAP platform itself, we have this ASA brand of ASA brand of clusters, which actually come as personas, and that doesn't mean you're not using ONTAP. Basically, it is ONTAP built for, say, SAN specific workload. Similarly, FX is ONTAP built for NAS specific workflows. So from the core point of view, the basic fundamentals of how the storage will perform and what are the endpoints that we are going to use to perform or orchestrate workflows on the storage do not change, right? There are some limitations and some additional changes that the platform or persona actually expands to, and that is what we want to kind of if we create a new driver for this kind of becomes a huge amount of work, because I would say 80% of the workflows do not change. If we just change our pooling strategy, and some of the dependencies on aggregates to nodes, I think we should be able to support it with the same driver. That was the primary
Yeah,
factor.
no, that makes sense. I mean, I think as long as you're convinced that this is how the maintenance of the driver, the readability, etc., makes sense, it totally is thing. Ironically, I was just thinking that every driver that we had in Manila was single pool until NetApp came and said, no, we need a multi-pool driver, and then now we're like, here's a single pool driver.
Converging back to single pool. Yes.
No, just
Agreed.
but that's, I mean, it's simplifying the problem too much, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks. On to Maurice.
Just a comment. I'm a little bit confused by the term disaggregated platform, so I had to look up what it means. So,
Okay.
I think if I got it right, and you can correct me, it means that you are now broken off the storage from the compute power, and it has
Yeah,
nothing to do
right.
with the term aggregate in the
Exactly.
that is now presented as one storage pool.
Yes, Maurice. So that is the whole idea behind disaggregated platforms and personas that NetApp is driving towards. So the reason why we had a unified unified ONTAP is still there because there are customers or there are personas which require both SAN and NAS to be used in the same cluster, which is like a multi-purpose cluster which actually serves for both. But if you see going forward, there is also requirements for dedicated niche controllers which can actually act differently and are dedicated for workloads. So where I need a SAN workload, I would actually deploy SAN persona, and where I need NAS workloads, I would deploy NAS persona. The aggregate has been kind of an internal debate for a long time in ONTAP and storage side, where we kind of expose the uh, internals of how the mapping of storage layer is to the customer, which kind of unsimplifies the overall experience, right? And here what we are trying to solve is also a separate decoupling of controller versus storage. This helps in a lot of sense because at the end of the day you can have two types of workloads. You either want an infinite volume kind of a workload which I can expand across my nodes, which is like FlexGroup, or you would want your containers to be based out of a single aggregates, which is where FlexDolls actually come into picture. So the whole idea of this segregation or this decoupling is to be able to you know um, be able to scale storage in its own way, and be able to scale your compute as and when you want. So this decoupling kind of helps in creating a scalable solution with not having coupling between node and aggregates anymore. It just decouples that entire.
Yeah, thanks for the explanation.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Looks like a good addition. Most questions I would have is they are already answered in the limitations and all that. So yeah, makes sense. Thanks for bringing this up. Any other questions for Sanket? All right. Yeah, thank you very much. I think we can then. Yeah, we are actually right on time for another break. So yeah, 5-minute break, and we'll be back to discuss both Manila migration to SC and share migration graduation and eventlet removal. See you in 5 minutes.